to Korea. It's actually the second day in. I didn't bother filming anything yesterday. I just wanted to kind of ease into things, but I am here and I'm so excited, and it's been a few years since I've been in Korea, so yeah, it's pretty exciting. And it's actually also the first time I am in this new house, which is my parents' new house. They bought a piece of land with another house on it a few years ago with a plan to retire here, but then they built this house, which I haven't been in before, so I'm super psyched, and it's a gorgeous, just really beautiful, cool house, so I'm pretty pumped to be here. Anyway, so I figured just to kind of like cap this off, since I'm going pretty much, I think I'll be doing this like vlog style for this whole video. I will be shooting other more sort of like planned, I guess, videos throughout my time here in Korea, but I figured I would just kind of show you guys my new environment, because I'm going to be here actually for a whole month, which is super exciting. So I figured I would actually share with you guys as I'm still unpacking. Today is actually, it's Erev Shabbat right now. It's Friday morning at like 8 in the morning or something like that. And I figured I would kind of do my unpacking and show you guys what I brought with me, and just kind of how I travel in terms of bringing my sort of like Jewish supplies, if you will, so I can stay observant and, you know, go through Shabbat with all my supplies, like my Shabbat candles and things like that. So Korea, if you guys do not know, is largely Christian. I think it's maybe something like very roughly, it's about 50% unaffiliated with any kind of religion, and then 50% more or less Christian. I think a little bit higher than that. So there's basically no Jews as far as on the record goes. I kind of happen to think that there's sort of lost tribe stuff going on, but maybe I'll do a separate video on that later. But there is actually, interestingly, one Chabad emissary, which I'm very excited. I would very much love to go there. So I'm actually planning on emailing the rabbi over there to just kind of say hello and ask him a million questions if he'll so allow. So that's kind of something I'm super excited about while I'm here, because obviously for me that's a very unique and special place, just the idea of getting in touch with my roots in terms of being a Jewish Korean, and I don't really know how many of us are out there, so I figured that would be a super exciting adventure for me to have, and I will absolutely be filming that. Actually yesterday my mom said she would be interested in coming with me, so I thought that was really sweet, and I'm excited to take her along for that journey. So anyway, so that one Chabad is basically like where anyone who's Jewish can actually find like some kosher supplies. I think they have like a little shop, and they'll probably have things like candles and matzah and like some basic things like that. I've seen like pictures of it online and stuff, but basically that's the only like Jewish store in all of the land of Korea. So I figured I should definitely pack, you know, all my supplies with me, as I would do if I'm traveling, really honestly anywhere in the world in general, just so that I'm kind of like Shabbat ready. So just as like a little side note, I am Shomer Shabbat, meaning I'm strictly observant for Shabbat. So, you know, no electricity, no, you know, no cooking, no, you know, that's all the rules basically. I'm kind of stumbling here, so sorry about that. But yeah, anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I really need to make sure that I have all my supplies with me, so that I'm not, you know, kind of scrambling at the last second trying to find kind of different hacks so that I can keep my Shabbat nice and observant as I would at home. So anyway, aside from Shabbat supplies, like I just kind of brought all my sort of books and learning materials and stuff, and I'm actually so excited. This is, I'm gonna do a separate video on this for sure, because starting from January 5th, which is when the new Daf Yomi cycle for Talmud Study started, I have been really trying to get into Daf Yomi, and it's been challenging to say the least, just kind of keeping up with it and getting into the rhythm. So I really wanted, you know, since I'm here for a whole month, I wanted to take this entire trip being in Korea to just really focus on some of my more like, you know, studies. Is essentially, I think my sort of, you know, spiritual growth in the last year has really been focused a lot around prayer and kind of like just building that personal connection with Hashem. And I think I've made some great strides there so far, but I do think that study is something I need to be a little bit more rigid on. So I wanted to actually just build a little bit of a rhythm and a routine around studying Talmud and studying Torah a little bit more, I guess more, you know, in a more scheduled fashion, I guess. It's been a little bit ad hoc. So Anywho, I think that was a very long-winded way of queuing up that this morning was the first time I actually was like on point with my Talmud study in terms of doing it like right after davening shacharit. So I was super psyched about that, and I really enjoyed the session. It wasn't the most like exciting daf, I have to say, today. It was daf number 28, but yeah, I don't know, it just felt great to actually start the day with that. So I hope to be able to kind of keep that up all the way through my time here in Korea, but of course as I bring it back home as well. So yes, my Talmud is one of the major things I brought with me. I have to say I felt like I was pretty good with like packing lightly. Like I didn't bring like too much clothes and like stuff in general, but my bags are pretty heavy because I brought, as you see, like a decent amount of books with me. So anyway, so my Talmud is one of them. So the kind of like, not annoying, I don't want to say annoying, but like, you know, the sort of, you know, cumbersome thing, if you will, was that this, the timing is that we're actually transitioning to the second volume of the Brachot, like, Talmud tractate. So this tractate happens to be divided into two different volumes, at least. So I actually have the like the art scroll edition of Talmud, which is divided. It's kind of like there's like a bigger version of this, and I have like the smaller, believe it or not, this is the smaller size, the little Daf Yomi size edition. So at least for this edition, it's broken up into two volumes. So I had to bring this guy and then the other one as well. So I packed those along. And then another thing I actually bothered to bring along, because I'm going to be hopefully be using it quite a bit, is I actually got one of these things on Amazon, which I love so much. I really recommend if you guys are into studying and reading a good amount. This thing is super cool. I think it was only like somewhere between like $10 and $20, but it is this like basically this book holder, and it has like different levels and stuff, and you can kind of tilt it back, and it has these awesome little stands. So I love this thing because you just pop it on a table, your book is upright, and especially when you're studying something as heavy as a Talmud, and you know, you're like in there for like a good 45 minutes to an hour of study, you know, it does get a little bit tiresome on your hands to hold it open. So I definitely wanted to bring this guy with me, so I've packed that as well. So yeah, it got a good use this morning, so I'm very excited about that. And then another critical thing that I brought with me was my Natzlan set. So this is for Netilat Yadayim. I actually got this at the dollar store as a little travel hack, I guess. I have to say, so when I do Netilat Yadayim, I do it in the morning. It's like the second thing you do in the morning as an observant Jew. You'll wake up, you say Modani, the prayer to just kind of thank Hashem for restoring your soul and bring you back to life. And then really the very second thing you do before your feet literally touch the ground is you have this guy, basically like a bedpan kind of thing by your side, and then you have a cup full of water, and then you wash Netilat Yadayim and do the bracha for that. So at home, I actually have a beautiful set of, I have like this really pretty clear glass bowl from like Crate and Barrel or something like that, or CB2, and I have this really cute long, it's actually like, it's basically like a little small water pitcher kind of thing with like a little cork top, and it's like glass, and it's very modern looking, and that's what I use as my Natzlan. I think I'm saying that right. I think it's called a Natzlan. But I really take pride in my little Natzlan set because it's so, you know, feels very me in terms of the style, and I love how like modern and pretty it is, because I have to say, I think that Natzlans like look very Natzlanyot, is that maybe the plural? But anyway, they look very kind of like a little odd to me, to be honest. They typically will kind of look like this. They're typically like a plastic cup with like two handles, which, you know, admittedly is a lot easier to use, especially when it's like, you know, your cup gets wet in the morning and stuff. So those are a lot easier to use, but I've just never found them very like aesthetically appealing. So anyway, I take a lot of pride in my very pretty set for Netilat Yadayim at home. But of course, as I'm traveling, I'm not going to carry glass with me, and I would probably break. So I decided to get this kind of travel set. I just got it at the dollar store, so $2. This is like a super cheap, you know, little plastic bin, and it's super light too. So I just like packed that along my suitcase. And then funny enough, this is actually a measuring cup from a good old Betty Crocker, it says on here. But I have to say, this is like super comfortable to use because, like I mentioned, my set at home, there is no handle on it. Contrary to popular belief, your Natzlan does not have to have handles on it. You actually, it could just be a regular cup. So, I have actually enjoyed using this at least for the last couple of days because it is pretty nice and easy to use. So these are my little sets here for Netla Edaim. So that was pretty, key for me to pack with me. I guess just kind of grabbing the next thing. I've got this guy, which is my smart plug, so that during Shabbat I can actually schedule when lights go on and off. Now I am here with my parents, so I figured they'll basically be turning lights on and off in general for me. I'm actually really not into the idea of using a Shabbat goy. I think that's like kind of a messed up practice, and from my understanding, technically you're not supposed to have anyone really do these things like turning on electricity for you. But so I won't outright like ask my parents to like turn something on or off for me, but I'm like hanging out in their house, so it's the lights will go on and off at the appointed times, more or less. So I did bring this with me though because I get up early before sunrise, so I figured I can find a little like floor lamp or something and actually get this guy queued up for Shabbat. So I'll have to kind of figure that out before I head out for the day. Next with me for my Jewish adventures here in Korea is this book, which I actually mentioned in my Hitbodedut video, In Forest Fields, a unique guide to personal prayer by Rabbi Shalom Arush. So I am so excited to read this book. I have had this on my bucket list for quite a while, and especially while I'm here in beautiful, beautiful Korea. You can't really see behind me. You can kind of see behind me, but my parents live like 45 minutes or so outside of Seoul, and it's in like this rural area. So I'm like deep in the mountains in like just nature, and I just thought this would be the most beautiful place to kind of get back into the rhythm of Hitbodedut, which I have sadly actually fallen out of practice with. In the last month or so, I've just been moving, I've been transitioning, and I feel like I've just really kind of like, lost a little steam. So I want to read this, and I'm excited to make this like my fun Shabbat reading. I usually like to save new books for Shabbat, so it's like extra exciting. So I will be reading this one very soon tonight, and I'm really psyched to get into this one. I will tell you guys how it turns out. And then next on my list here, I have all these if you had opened up my suitcase, my luggage, you would have been like, okay, this is a Jewish person for sure. Just like all of my clothes and stuff, I think it's literally just naturally where I'm shopping and stuff. I have all bags from my kosher butchery and from my bookshop. So I have this bag from my local bookshop, and all my stuff was packed in these kinds of bags. But I've got, of course, key and critical, my Manischewitz for Shabbat. So I knew that I would not be able to find kosher wine here in Korea. Probably not. It'd be amazing if they could. Maybe they have it at that Chabad store, probably. But I figured I would make sure that I had this with me. And I have to say, I have actually, when I grew up, I don't know, for whatever reason, my parents used to have this once in a while, around the house, for holidays or whatever. And I always loved the taste of this stuff because it tastes like grape juice. And I'm not really, I'm a terrible drinker. So for me, I just love Manischewitz and Hineni and all that kind of lighter stuff, because it just tastes like juice basically. But I have to say, lately I've been a kedem girl for some reason. Maybe it's because it's a tiny bit cheaper, but that's what I've been buying lately. But I'm excited to get back to the old Manischewitz. Nice classic. And they have fun flavors lately. I've actually noticed they have a few different varieties, but I went with the classic Concord grape. So I'll have this tonight. Another book that I brought, lots of books, is this really cool book called Magic of the Ordinary, and it's recovering the shamanic in Judaism. And the reason I got this was because I started to, just kind of preparing for this trip, I was really researching and looking into our Korean religious customs and different religions in Korea, and just trying to kind of understand the sort of religious heritage of my people. So I started stumbling across shamanism in Korean culture, which is a really huge part of Korean culture. And growing up, I I really didn't know anything about it, and I still really don't. And I'm just trying to kind of piece together, like, where did this heritage come from? And, I'm just kind of trying to connect all the puzzle pieces. And I don't know how, but somehow as I was like searching and I don't know, on Amazon or something, I came across this book. I probably Googled shamanism, Judaism, or something like that. And I actually found this whole book, which is about basically describing how Judaism actually has a lot of like shamanic aspects to it. And from the Amazon reviews that I've read, this book apparently is pretty true to like traditional Orthodox Judaism. So in other words, is there something really unkosher about it, as I'm told or as I've read? So I'm just fascinated to understand that connection of shamanism and just primal spirituality. I think is always something I'm very, very interested in, because especially nowadays, like, religion is just so adulterated by humans and politics and ego and stupid stuff like that. So I wanted to kind of figure out, like, what are those like primal commonalities between all religious customs and traditions, and then how does that, kind of connect and tie back and relate to Judaism. So this one I'm super excited to read, especially while I'm here in Korea, so I can kind of, like I said, try to connect the dots a little bit more. And then, like I mentioned, this is my volume 2 of the Talmud. This one actually, I don't know if you can tell, is like a little bit thicker. So this guy will last me a little bit longer, good, thankfully. They're like, each volume is like about $40 to $45. So, it adds up. Like the whole set is like $2,000. So I'm glad that this volume will last me a little bit longer than about a month. So there's that. And then the other stuff I packed in this bin, because I don't know if you guys could see, but I brought, of course, Matzo with me. And this is, again, I don't know why I went Manischewitz again. I usually, like lately, I've been more like getting Strites for some reason, but I decided to go with the Manischewitz because at my store, they only had this brand for the whole wheat, and I don't know, I was trying to be a little healthy, so I went with the whole wheat. Now I brought actually 2 boxes of matzah because I was like terrified. I was so nervous that, especially with the traveling, that the matzah would get cracked and like smashed. So I brought 2 just to be safe, because I have 4 Shabbats to go through here. Each, like, 1 box would last me a Shabbat, a full Shabbat or a full month, but yeah, I brought 2 just to be safe. If your matzah is cracked, by the way, it is unkosher for chametzi and all that stuff. So make sure to always use whole matzah. And I just want to see if it survived. Yeah, it did. So, but I do see like this one does have a little bit of a crack on it. I think this one's still like kosher for use because it's not broken, it's just cracked, but I don't know, I like to have them all pretty and perfect, so I will fish out the nice and clean ones for use. So got my 2 boxes of matzah here. And then more books. I brought, this is actually a new one for me. This is the Universal Garden of Emunah, and I've totally talked about the original Garden of Emunah book here on this channel before. I absolutely love it. It was like game-changing for me. Another Rabbi Shalom Arush book, just like that Forrester Fields book I showed you a second ago. But what I liked about this, because I read the original one, which is written for Jews, but this one is a universal garden. So this is basically written for Gentiles. And I thought it would be really interesting just to kind of get the perspective of the difference of how he sort of speaks about, the way that Emunah and all these sort of principles he talks about applies to just the greater world in general. So another reason I brought this was because I actually thought it would be so amazing to reach out to, it's called Chut Shel Chesed. Chut Shel Chesed. I'm totally butchering that pronunciation, but Chut Shel Chesed is the name of the Rav Arush's, basically like his publication company that creates all these books from the Breslov Institute. And I thought it'd be so amazing to actually reach out, get this thing translated, and to find a publisher here in Korea to spread this throughout. If you guys don't know, there is a huge, huge, huge affinity between the Korean and Jewish people, and Koreans have this like very strong admiration and yeah, just a great respect for the Jewish people. And I think it's like so many reasons. I think I'll definitely do a separate video on this, but there's just this love of the culture of sort of like the academic, studious culture, I think. And Christians, and Koreans, like I mentioned, are very Christian. So I think there's a strong appreciation just for like Judaic teachings in general. So I really think that this book would do quite well in Korea. And if you don't know, Talmud is actually a big deal in Korea. It's not people say that that in the country of Korea, there are more Talmuds than in Israel. That's a stat that's like thrown around quite a bit. But the truth of it is that it's not like, Koreans are not studying like this Talmud. They're studying, wisdom from Talmud, like sort of books that are derivative of Talmudic teachings, but not like this kind of hardcore stuff. That said, there is quite an affinity and quite an interest. So I thought it'd be really cool to be able to sort of spread these teachings, because it's really changed my life, and sort of bring this to Korea as that kind of like Korean American Jewish middle person somehow. So just kind of brought this in case I do get to have a few meetings with publishers or something like that. I thought it'd be awesome. But anyway, it'll be just good reading for me in general. Other books, of course, I brought my Chumash so that I can be studying Torah throughout the week, as I always do. This is the stone edition. I also go with Art Scroll. I like to kind of keep it traditional, if you can tell, in terms of the sort of editions of books that I use. I do not actually have it with me because it's still in my bedroom, but I also brought, of course, my beloved Siddur, which I bring with me everywhere. So my Siddur will get great use, of course, here in Korea as well. And then the last book I brought with me was, I've been grappling with this one. It's such a tiny book, but it's so heavy that I have such a hard time. You need to really focus when I get into this. But just a classic, Martin Buber, I and Thou. This is Jewish philosophy, and it's a pretty great book. And so I've been reading and rereading this one. So I figured, well, I'm kind of here in this sort of spiritual state, during my, I don't know, even though it's kind of just a trip visiting home to Korea, for whatever reason, I think the timing in my life and all that, to me, this feels like kind of a spiritual retreat for me. So I really wanted to kind of get back into Jewish philosophy and spirituality and all this good stuff. So I brought this as well. Just a few more things. I, of course, brought plenty of Shabbat candles. Now I brought, these are just the classic kind of 4-hour candles. I also brought plenty of my little mini votive travel light editions. So these guys last just an hour. You guys might notice these are the kind of candles you might light, in shul or something, and these are a little bit more for home. So I kind of have both options, because depending on kind of what's going on, if I know that I'll sort of be near the candles for a long time, then I'll totally go for the 4-hour ones. If I'm gonna go and take a walk or leave the area, I just feel a little bit safer with 1-hour versions, so they're not burning too long. So I always like to just kind of have both as options. These are technically travel versions, but even though I'm traveling, I'm basically at home as it feels. So I brought the home versions as well. And of course my little candle holders. So I know that people go kind of crazy on fancy schmancy candle holders, and these are the cheapest. I think these are $3 each, but I honestly think these are way prettier than some of the more elaborate crystally looking ones. These just kind of aesthetically fit my style a little bit more, so I love these little guys. So I brought those. And then speaking of candles, I also brought okay, so this might be a little confusing because it looks like I'm holding a bunch of birthday candles, which I am. And I actually do a little bit of a Havdalah candle hack, which I will share a video on separately, but I essentially take birthday candles and sort of melt them together to kind of create my own Havdalah candles. The reason I do this, I started doing that because Havdalah candles are expensive. They're not that expensive. You can get them for $3 or $4 or so, but it adds up on top of your, your Manischewitz and your challah and all that stuff. The supplies add up. So I actually take pretty little birthday candles, fuse them together, and make my kosher multi-wick candle for Havdalah. So, which this now reminds me, it's Erev Shabbat, so I have a lot of stuff to get done today in preparation because we're going to be out during the afternoon. So I actually have to melt these guys together. Shortly, I'll probably do that right after this video. So I've got those with me. And then also for Havdalah, I really don't like this container. I should get a way prettier one, but I have my little container for besamim, the spices that you also use during the Havdalah ceremony. In here, I actually have I have actually, it's like a tea blend of like cherry blossom kind of spice, and it smells like really fruity and amazing. Traditionally, I feel like clove and it's like clove and anise and cinnamon, and those kinds of more like pumpkin spicy scents are a little more typical of of Havdalah, or of Besamim for Havdalah, but I don't know, cherry blossom and fruit, and this just feels a little more exciting for me. So this is the blend of spices that I use. And I put them in this little mini honey jar, but yeah, I should probably get a cuter container for that. Couple more things. So I also brought, if you can tell what this is, like bonus points if you guys know what the heck this is. If you could tell what this is, good on you. But this is my Shabbat Belt, because we're not allowed to carry on Shabbat, and I am definitely not in Eruv territory. I brought this just in case for some reason I'm gonna like go take a walk and I need to bring a key with me. Now this probably won't even come up because I'm with my family and hanging out with my parents, so even if I did take a solo walk by myself, they're gonna be home. So I highly doubt I would be in a scenario where I need to put my key on here and actually wear this Shabbat belt, but hey, why not pack it just in case? So I definitely brought this with me so I wouldn't be in a bind if I did, come up with that circumstance. And that's the thing, guys, you really want to be prepared. You don't want to be in a situation where you're questioning whether you can keep up an observance that you really, you really believe in versus, kind of slipping because you didn't prepare. So it's all about good preparation. And my last item with all that said, and I also brought matches, which I know you're not actually supposed to bring this on the plane, TSA wise. Somehow they didn't, they totally went through my bags. I got those slips that said so, but I've got my matches for Havdalah and for lighting Shabbat candles as well. And then last but not least, I have my Shabbat clock. So if you guys don't know what this is, it's actually called kosher clock, and it's a special clock where you can set multiple, like up to 10 alarms. And so this is great for Shabbat where, you can't, change your alarm and stuff. So if you know you're going to want to take an afternoon nap and you want to make sure you wake up, a little bit before like mincha and stuff, like you can kind of cue it up and prepare. So I will have to schedule this as well, since I don't have this set up, or I have this set up for like home time and stuff. The other thing about kosher clock, which is cool, is that it has kind of two different sides. One is for weekday, where if you slip this on, like all just the buttons, you could see like you could touch all the buttons and stuff. And then when you're in Shabbat mode, you actually flip this guy so that you don't accidentally touch the buttons and engage the sort of like lighting and mechanisms and stuff. So this is my Shabbat clock, handy to have with me as well. So anyway, that's what I packed with me to make sure that I can stay, as observant as I can while I'm here, even in Korea, in the land of very few Jews, as far as I know. So anyway, yeah, and then I am over here kind of working on my pile of toilet paper, where I'm also just kind of like, I always cut them in advance and then I'll fold them up so I don't tear on Shabbat as well. So I do think it's very possible and pretty easy to stay observant while you're traveling, anywhere in the world. It just takes a little bit of preparation and foresight in advance, but it can be done. Now, aside from just being like prepared by bringing all my, my books and my Manischewitz and my, Matzo and stuff like that, another big aspect of staying observant, especially, while I'm traveling in Korea in my parents' home, is that my parents are super duper supportive, which like Baruch Hashem, like that, it didn't have to be that way. Like I know that a lot of sort of Jews who don't grow up in a Jewish family per se, struggle with this issue, but I am so super lucky that they're like really, really supportive. For example, we're going out to lunch this afternoon, and like they know that I have to be back at home before sundown, and just little things like that. So I'm just very, very grateful that they are, making it all that, all the more easy for me to keep up my observance while I'm here in Korea. Anyway, that's all I got, you guys. I just wanted to share kind of my adventures in Korea. I'll definitely be shooting more videos, but I figured I would kind of do a little bit more vlog style stuff here and there, just to sprinkle in a little more context of where I am. So anyway, thanks again for sticking with me. If you guys like this video, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you get the notifications when I drop my new videos while I'm here in Korea. All right, bye guys. Shalom, Aleichem.
Wow, yeah, swear to God I'm with it. I don't see nobody in my lane that's quite go get it like me. Wow, please don't be wasting my time with that business. Who you kidding, man? Yeah.